While President Trump was launching a bold strike to cripple Iran's nuclear program and protect millions of lives overseas, something unthinkable was happening right here on American soil. As Iranian missiles lit up the skies above Tel Aviv and children huddled in bomb shelters, Democrat activists were organizing mass protests for the 4th of July against their own country. They weren't waving flags, guys. They were burning them. In fact, they called it No Kings 2.0, a twisted anti-American campaign to tear down everything the 4th of July stands for, while our troops and allies stood in harm's way defending the very freedoms these radicals were trampling. And while President Trump's leadership was praised across Israel and the global stage, right here back at home, Democratic lawmakers were playing guitar on TikTok, mocking the Constitution and cheering on chaos. One even compared Trump to a dictator with a gun in his hand. So I want you to ask yourself this: who's really standing up for America right now? And who's trying to burn it down to the ground? Let me know down below. And in just a minute, I'm going to show you what the mass media refuses to report about these 4th of July protests. Then I want to take you guys right inside of Iran's explosive retaliation, what President Trump really took out with those strikes, and why even the United Nations is turning its back on the truth. Oh, and of course, we need to talk about what one Democrat congressman, congresswoman, some of these people change their genders. Anyway, I'll digress. Because what one Democrat congressman just did in public, it's going to leave you speechless, guys. So this isn't just a war overseas. This is a war for the soul of our nation, and it's playing out in real time. So I want to go ahead and break this down for you guys. If you appreciate the daily news updates, please hit the like button and subscribe. I really appreciate your support. It happened just after midnight local time. President Donald J. Trump gave the green light to one of the boldest U.S. military operations in modern history. Multiple Iranian nuclear sites, including the very heavily fortified Fordow enrichment facility, they were hit with precision-guided bombs. Intelligence reports had just revealed what we all feared. Iran was just weeks away from enriching enough uranium for a nuclear weapon. Not years, not months, weeks. And while the international community hesitated with this information and the media speculated, Trump acted. He didn't ask for permission from Brussels. He didn't wait for the UN to issue another toothless resolution. He took the shot. Israel's Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, responded immediately. He praised President Trump's decision as historic, saying, and I quote, "His leadership has created a pivot point in history, one that could lead the Middle East and beyond toward a future of peace and prosperity." And that's what real leadership looks like, guys. Not endless negotiations, not red lines that never meant anything. Trump was not bluffing. He sent a message to the world: America will not let tyrants get the bomb. But here's the part that should really make every American stomach turn. While our commander-in-chief was risking global blowback in efforts to protect Western civilization, back here in the United States, the radical left was busy preparing their own kind of strike, not against Iran, but against America itself. So I'm going to get to that in just a minute. But first, I want to talk to you guys about the chaos that just exploded just a few hours after Trump's missiles hit. The retaliation came real fast. In fact, Iran's response wasn't strategic, it was cruel. Instead of targeting military assets, the regime fired over 30 ballistic missiles directly into Israeli residential neighborhoods, Tel Aviv, Haifa, cities filled with civilians, families, people just trying to live their lives. More than 80 innocent civilians were wounded, entire apartment buildings leveled, children pulled from the rubble, streets covered in blood and dust. These weren't just attacks. These were acts of terror. Israel immediately entered a state of emergency. Schools got shut down, businesses shuttered, civilians ordered to avoid public spaces, bomb shelters were overwhelmed. And amid it all, you know what Trump did? He didn't even flinch. Now, I don't know what Biden would have done in this situation, But Trump did not flinch. In fact, while Democrat-aligned media outlets were already preparing their hit pieces, calling Trump reckless, Trump stood firm, reaffirming our commitment to Israel, increasing military readiness, and warning Iran that any further escalation would be met with overwhelming force. And yet, as missiles essentially rained down on innocent people overseas, what were the Democrats doing here at home? Were they standing with the commander-in-chief, with our allies, with the children of Israel huddled in bunkers? Of course not. The Democrats here were busy organizing something far darker, something internal, something aimed not at Tehran, but at the United States itself. And of course, I want to expose this Democrat-led protest movement that they're talking about taking aim at the very heart of America, our identity, our values, even our Independence Day. Guys, they're calling it No Kings 2.0. But don't let the name fool you. This is not about freedom. This is a coordinated attack on patriotism itself. We're talking flag burning, anti-American slogans, calls to reject capitalism, Christianity, even the nuclear family. Guys, and the timing, it's no coincidence. While enemies abroad test our defenses, Democrats are dismantling our foundation from within. Guys, I know you're frustrated. I get it. You know that feeling you get when you finally fix something that's been stressing you out for months? Well, that's what happens when people call chapter. Cecil Frith, he said this. He said, I'm now saving $166 a month. When all you've got is Social Security, that is a sweet raise. Linda Ortega, she also added, I have great news. Chapter helped me save big. Look, guys, it's not just about the numbers. It's about relief. It's about security and breathing room. Give our friends at Chapter a call right now and see exactly how much money they can save you on your Medicare. Phone number is 909-563-8279, or better yet, hit them up on their website at askchapter.org/Ron. And drop me a comment down below and let me know how much money you were able to save. So while President Trump was in the Situation Room launching a strike to stop nuclear war, the radical left here at home, they were busy planning something of their own, a direct strike on American values. Let me introduce you to the movement that you're about to see all over your feeds, okay? And you may already start seeing it now. You may have already seen them. No Kings 2.0, that's what they're calling this thing. That sounds like some kind of a historical protest, right? I don't want you to be fooled. This is not about liberty. This is about replacing the United States, its systems, its heritage, its very foundation with a woke utopian built on victimhood and revenge. So on the 4th of July, a day that's meant to unite this country, Democrat organizers, activists, and their enablers are planning to unleash coast-to-coast anti-America demonstrations. Yeah, cities like LA, Chicago, Portland, and Washington, D.C. are already on high alert, not from foreign terrorists, but from their own radical residents. Let me go ahead and read to you guys directly from the leaked promotional material for this so-called movement, okay? So they're talking about raising people's losses, reject the patriarchy, burn the symbols of oppression, abolish the fourth. They're not even hiding it anymore. This isn't protest. This is cultural sabotage backed by Marxist ideology, disguised as social justice and fueled by a hatred of America that makes Iran's propaganda look tame. And do you know what they're planning at these events, guys? Flag burnings, anti-capitalist chants, public denouncements of the family unit. They're even mocking reparations giveaways where they'll hand out money to some protesters and force others to kneel and apologize. This is a total inversion of what July 4th stands for. Can I get an amen? And here's the kicker. They're timing all of this to coincide with our Independence Day parades, veterans tributes, and even family celebrations across the country. That's why this timing is so important, guys. Imagine bringing your kids to watch fireworks, and then across the street are some angry protesters lighting the American flag on fire, screaming that patriotism is white supremacy. It's sick, it's calculated, and it's being cheered on by the same political class that once claimed to be the adults in the room. But here's, man, it just gets so much worse. Bear with me, guys. It's not just the foot soldiers of the left who are pushing this. The rot actually goes all the way to the top. So let me tell you what Congressman Hank Johnson, yes, a sitting U.S. representative, thought was appropriate during all of this, okay? So as the world braced for Iranian retaliation, as Israelis, civilians held their own, doing their best, hiding in bomb shelters, as the president of the United States made one of the most important foreign policy decisions of the decade, Hank Johnson picked up a guitar and recorded an anti-Trump parody. He butchered the iconic rock song, Hey Joe. You remember Jimi Hendrix, Woodstock, American music history? It turned into this. Hey Trump, where are you going with that gun in your hand? I'm going down the street to shoot down democracy. I want to be a king someday. This is a member of Congress mocking a sitting president during an international military crisis. And not just any president, the commander-in-chief actively working to prevent nuclear war and protect American lives. And what was the reaction from the left? Applause, praise, laughing emojis all over social media. But imagine for 1 second if the roles were reversed. Imagine if a Republican mocked Barack Obama with a guitar doing a drone strike, during a drone strike. They would be labeled as a domestic threat. CNN would be running 24-hour coverage on that. Impeachment hearings would be scheduled before the song ended. So this is the two-sided, two-tiered moral system that we're living under here, guys. If you burn the flag, you're called brave. If you protect the flag, you're called a fascist. If you stand for national pride, you're ridiculed. If you mock it, you're celebrated. Clearly, this is not normal. It's not funny. It's not clever. It's the unraveling of a national identity. And the people cheering it on are not fringe. They're sitting in Congress. They're running city councils, hosting late night shows, right? So while cities in Israel were still smoldering, while families were still pulling loved ones out of the rubble, the world had a decision to make. Stand with America and our allies, or join the globalist chorus blaming us for the violence. And let me be clear, guys. Israel didn't hesitate. Prime Minister Netanyahu, standing before his people and the world, he said this: history will record that President Trump acted to deny the world's most dangerous regime the world's most dangerous weapons. Okay, right? Now, he called it a pivot point in history, not a mistake, not an escalation, but a turning point for peace and survival in the Middle East. And while our allies stood strong behind us, our own Democrat leaders, they did the exact opposite. In speeches, on social media, on cable news, we heard it over and over again. Trump blew up democracy. Trump made things worse. Trump should have de-escalated. Sound familiar? Guys, that's word for word what Iran's foreign minister said just hours after their missiles hit Israeli homes. And you got to ask, why did the Democrats' talking points sound like they were written in Tehran? Anybody ever wonder that? Why is the left more outraged at Trump dropping bombs on a Iranian enrichment site than they are at Iran dropping bombs on civilian apartment buildings? You want hypocrisy, guys? The UN Secretary General came out and publicly blamed the United States for triggering the conflict without a single word of condemnation for Iran's missile barrage. Meanwhile, Democrat-aligned U.S. media outlets followed suit, running headlines like Trump's gamble in the Middle East, Trump's reckless strike shatters talks, Iran responds to U.S. aggression. Aggression? Are we really going to call preventing nuclear war an act of aggression? Are we really going to treat the guy who's trying to protect the free world like the bad guy? And at the same time, Trump was being demonized, we saw progressive activists online calling Iran's missile attacks a predictable response to Western imperialism. Some even said that the civilians hit were collateral damage in a broader fight for justice. You can't even make this stuff up at this point, guys. Oh, and let's not forget about the Organization of Islamic Cooperation, the OIC. They're an international bloc of Muslim majority nations. They rushed to set up a contact group to defend Iran and push back against what they called U.S. aggression. No mention of Israeli dead, no mention of Iranian missiles, none of that. So let me say it again. While our enemies fired rockets, our allies stood with Trump, and the Democrats stood with our enemies. So as we speak, more than 40,000 U.S. military personnel, along with their spouses and children, are stationed across the Middle East. Many of them are directly in harm's way right now. Many are on high alert, bunkered down, ready for a second wave of Iranian retaliation. Their lives are on the line, guys. And yet back here at home, do you hear Democrats calling for unity, for patriotism, for support? Not even close. Instead, they're organizing marches. They're lighting flags on fire. They're planning to shut down streets on Independence Day, not to honor our troops, but to demand we dismantle the very freedoms these troops fight to protect. So what kind of country sends its sons and daughters overseas to defend liberty while the political class here attacks liberty from within? Let me tell you what it feels like for our military families watching all of this unfold, guys. You're deployed in Kuwait, in Bahrain, in the Red Sea. You just watched your commander-in-chief take a bold, historic stand against a hostile regime. And then you flip on the news, or maybe you check on your phone, and you see that back in Portland or Washington, D.C., your fellow Americans are mocking your sacrifice. You see protesters chanting death to America in your own language. You see celebrities and lawmakers implying that you're the problem, not the terrorists firing the missiles. You see your flag desecrated by people who live under its protection. That's betrayal, plain and simple. And let's talk about what's at stake here. These aren't like hypothetical risks, guys. Iran has proxies in Iraq, in Syria, in Yemen. They've got suicide drones. They've got ballistic missiles. They've got militias who would love nothing more than to be able to target American convoys or an embassy right now. And you can bet that they're watching these protests and they're saying, America is divided. Now's the time to strike. They smell weakness. And that weakness is not coming from Trump. It's coming from within, from the side that would rather protest a parade than stop a warhead, from the side that thinks fireworks are violence, but missiles are just, regional resistance. This is no longer about foreign policy. It's about whether this country even wants to survive, because a nation can withstand invasion, but it cannot survive self-loathing. And that's what the radical wing of the Democratic Party has become, a self-loathing movement that's so poisoned by identity politics and historical revisionism that they now see their own country as the enemy. Not Iran, not Hamas, not the CCP, not the UN. Their enemy is America. But here's the good news. Americans are waking up. Now, in the middle of all of this chaos, foreign and domestic, something is happening that the media doesn't want you to see. Support for President Trump is exploding, not just from his base, but from the middle, from the people who used to lean blue, from folks who used to say, hey, I'm not political, from suburban dads who just wanted stability, and from military moms who just had enough of the left spitting on their sacrifices. But why? Why now? Because people are tired of pretending that this is normal. Tired of being told that men can be women, that riots are peaceful, that burning the American flag is progress, that calling for open borders and mass amnesty is somehow compassionate, while stopping terrorists is called cruelty. Americans are watching the streets filled with masked protesters carrying signs that say no pride in genocide and F the fourth. Meanwhile, they're simultaneously watching Trump stand shoulder to shoulder with Israel to take out nuclear sites that could annihilate entire cities. The contrast is seared into the national consciousness now, guys. And people who might have hated Trump and Trump's tweets 5 years ago, they're now saying, I'll take mean tweets over missiles in my backyard any day. Can I get an amen, guys? Even members of the Democratic Party are starting to splinter. Just look at Senator John Fetterman. He's a man who used to be a darling to the progressive movement. He wore hoodies on the Senate floor, talked like a steel worker, and they loved him for it. Right up until he said three things. I support the troops. I believe in the free market. I stand with Israel and against terrorism. Now they treat him like a traitor because today's Democratic Party has no room for nuance, no space for balance. You're either marching in the streets, burning flags, or you're branded a threat to progress. It's no wonder that the polls are shifting so fast. Internal Democratic polling quietly leaked to sympathetic outlets, showing double-digit drops in swing states. Why? Because the more Trump stands tall on the world stage, the smaller and more bitter the Democratic Party looks. This is no longer Trump versus Biden. This is Trump versus the mob, Trump versus the institutional rot, Trump versus the anti-American left that would rather kneel to tyrants than salute their own flag. Even lifelong Democrats are saying it. I didn't leave the party left me. I'm not voting red. I'm voting American. I'm not agreeing with Trump on everything, but at least he loves this country. So this is what happens when a political movement turns against its own flag. It loses the people because deep down, most Americans still love this country. They love their families. They love their faith. They love their freedoms. And when they see a man, flawed or not, standing in front of flames and he's trying to hold the line, they rally behind him. Wouldn't you? And Trump, he's not just holding the line anymore, guys. He's actually drawing a new one in the stand and in the concrete and in the hearts of every working man and woman who still believes America is worth saving. Because here's the truth, guys. You can only mock the country for so long. You can only erase so much history. You can only burn so many flags before the people start saying, hey, look, enough. And there we are. We're not just witnessing a moment in politics. We are standing at the edge of a moral cliff here. And history will ask, did America rise to meet this moment, or did we surrender from within? Because while President Trump struck Iran to stop a nuclear nightmare, Democrats here at home, they launched their own war on our history, on our heroes, our holidays, and our own flag. President Trump dropped bombs on Iranian facilities. The left dropped matches on our founding values. He fought to prevent mass destruction. They fought to erase what makes us one nation under God. And let me ask you this, guys. What good is winning a war abroad if we lose the soul of our country here at home? The radicals in the streets are not just protesting policy. They're waging psychological warfare on the next generation. They want your kids to hate this country. They want your churches silenced, your military defunded, your flag desecrated. They're not hiding it anymore. They don't want to reform America. They want to replace it. And this is why this Independence Day is different. This isn't just about fireworks and cookouts. This year, it's about survival. Because how can we celebrate freedom when one half of the country is trying to cancel the very day that freedom began, right? But of course, there is hope, because every time the radical left goes a little bit too far, America pushes back. I don't know if you guys have observed that pattern. And this time, they may have gone too far to ever come back. You see it. I see it. And now millions more are waking up to it. They're turning off the noise. They're turning toward the flag. They're turning to a leader who, for all of his flaws, never apologized for loving this country. Because at the end of the day, it's not about party. It's about personality. It's about whether we fight for the only country that we've got. So if you're tired of watching your nation get lit on fire, if you still believe that the 4th of July is sacred, if you believe in peace through strength, freedom over fear, and truth over propaganda, then now is the time to stand. Share this video. Speak up. Show your flag, call out the lies, support the truth, because if we lose this fight, there won't be another one to win. So while Trump struck Iran to stop destruction, you and I must strike back against the destruction that's happening here with our words, with our votes, with our courage. This isn't the end of America, but it could be the end of the America we know if we do nothing. So anyway, guys, I hope you appreciate this video. Hit the like button, subscribe, share the video. We'll see you next time.